Welcome to This Explainer. I'm so glad you're joining us today because we are diving into one of the most chilling, perplexing, and honestly heartbreaking unsolved cases in American history. We're talking about the incredible, unbelievable story of the Sodder family. So, let's get right into it. Right off the bat, we have to ask, what exactly happened to the 5 missing Sodder children? It's literally the central question that has completely baffled investigators, historians, and true crime buffs for over 80 years. Did they tragically perish that night, or did they somehow survive against all odds? Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, we have to start with the baseline tragedy: a mystery born on Christmas Eve. A horrific house fire consumed the Sodder family home. Now, the official story, the one you'll find written down in the history books, was straightforward but devastating. The 5 children were trapped inside and died in the blaze. But as you're about to see, that official story, it was just the very tip of the iceberg. Part 1. A trail of strange clues, anomalies before the blaze. You've got to look at the incredibly bizarre occurrences leading up to the fire. Weeks before the blaze, a stranger claiming to be looking for work visited the home, pointed straight at the fuse box, and warned George Sodder that his house would one day catch fire. Kind of a weird comment at the time, right? But deeply sinister in hindsight. Then, just days before Christmas, a salesman visited the property, acting super hostile and making some really unusual remarks. And finally, the night of the fire, right around midnight, a mysterious wrong number telephone call wakes Jenny Sodder. Who made that call and why on that specific night of all nights? We still have no idea. But the anomalies weren't just weird conversations. The family's ladder, completely missing. Their trucks, both of them suddenly failed to start. Literally wouldn't turn over. Then you have witness reports from a local bus driver who claimed he saw people throwing what looked like burning objects at the house before the fire even erupted. And perhaps the most alarming detail of all, the later discovery of what was described as a pineapple bomb. Every single piece of this contradicts a simple, accidental house fire. Let's just focus on that last point for a second because it's a real game changer. A pineapple bomb is a type of explosive military-style incendiary device. George Sodder reportedly found this strange object near the property months later. Just think about the terrifying implications of a device like that for a moment. Finding that made George absolutely convinced someone had deliberately set the fire. And if that was true, well, the fire might have just been a diversion in a massive, coordinated plot to remove the children from the house before it burned. Part 2. Sightings and sinister theories. Did they actually survive? So the family follows this agonizing trail of hope through alleged sightings. First, a witness reported seeing the missing children shortly after the tragedy. Then, a woman at a roadside restaurant stated she actually served breakfast to children perfectly matching their exact descriptions. And third, another witness claimed the kids were accompanied by adults who point-blank refused to let anyone speak to them. You really have to ask yourself, were these simply cases of mistaken identity? Or is this actual, tangible proof of survival? We are essentially left with 2 completely divergent narratives here. On one hand, you've got the official explanation. Experts point out that fire investigations in the 1940s just weren't that advanced, errors could have easily been made, and tragic remains could have simply been overlooked in the ash. But on the other hand, you have the family's belief. For them, the sheer volume of suspicious clues, the missing ladder, the dead trucks, the weird phone call, the sightings, it all formed a clear pattern of deliberate arson and kidnapping that they simply could not ignore. As time went on, outsiders started bringing their own theories to the table. Some believed organized criminals were involved. Others suggested it was a revenge kidnapping. And then there was the political theory. George Sodder was known for openly expressing his political opinions concerning Italy's former dictator Benito Mussolini. Theorists suggested that his outspoken views might have angered certain individuals, making the family a target. Now, it is absolutely crucial to note that there was never enough evidence to prove any of these claims. They remain entirely unproven theories for a motive, nothing more. But even without solid proof, the questions just kept coming. Years passed. Then decades, until we arrive at the year 1967. In 1967, one of the most famous and honestly baffling developments in the entire case occurred. The Sodder family received an unexpected letter. Inside was a photograph of a young man who strongly resembled one of the missing children, Louis Sodder. And on the back of that photograph was a cryptic, handwritten message. Investigators examined the photo, but they were entirely unable to verify its authenticity. Still, for the family, it was a chilling, tangible piece of evidence that blew the mystery wide open all over again. Part 3. A family's lifelong search.
The emotional toll. Look at the incredible lengths these parents went to. I mean, most families might eventually give up, right? But the Sodders? No way. They hired private investigators. They followed leads across multiple states. They spent thousands and thousands of dollars pursuing answers. And eventually, they erected a massive billboard along a highway, displaying photographs of their missing children and offering a reward. Thousands of people saw it every single year. That billboard stood as an absolute symbol of hope and a direct, unwavering challenge to anyone who might know the truth.
Just imagine living with that level of uncertainty. Every single rumor carried the promise of a reunion. Imagine waking up every day wondering if your children were alive, if they needed help, if you'd ever see them again. That agonizing uncertainty became a permanent part of George and Jenny's existence. Tragically, George passed away without ever knowing the truth. And Jenny, she continued searching well into her old age, completely convinced that her children had survived. And so, here we are, more than 80 years later, and researchers, historians, and investigators are all still left facing the exact same agonizing questions. Did those kids perish in the flames that destroyed their family home? Or were they somehow removed before the fire and taken away forever? We're left to weigh the missing ladder, the strange encounters, and that cryptic photograph against the terrible, destructive reality of a house fire in the 1940s. We are left right here, in this kind of liminal space between tragedy and mystery, a place where facts and speculation collide and where every single theory contains major gaps. The Sodder children mystery remains one of America's most haunting unsolved cases. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying mysteries are the ones we simply cannot explain. Thank you so much for walking through this explainer with me. What do you think the evidence actually points to? Until next time, keep asking questions.